chapter is Forest and Society, and we understand the importance of forest. It's not only for the villagers, but most important is for the tribal people. Tribal people depend upon the forest for the basic requirements. They depend upon the twigs, they depend upon the fruits, nuts, and all those we have collected in a particular basket there. Here we see the importance of forest. You can see that it is giving the wood, it is giving honey, cotton cultivated by the colonial people. All these are the uses of the forest. Okay, and most important, let's see our presentation, and then I'll keep asking you questions.
The disappearance of forests as excessive numbers of trees are cut and cleared is known as deforestation. In India, extensive deforestation occurred during the colonial rule. Let's look at
When we see this, what exactly you mean by a colonial rule? What is this flag? What is this? What the colonial rule means? What does the colonial rule means? Anyone? You can answer. Colonial rule means what? The British rule. When British had ruled India, they had exploited their Tata forests, used those forests for producing cotton, jute, commercial crops so that they earn the money. Okay, this land belongs to the British. Yes, that.
the causes of deforestation in India during this period. As population increased over the centuries, the demand for food also increased. More land was needed for cultivation of crops, and forests were cleared to acquire this land. The British in India further encouraged the cultivation of commercial or cash crops like jute, sugarcane, wheat, and cotton.
Here, what do you mean by the commercial crop? What does commercial crop means? What is the meaning of this commercial crop? When you talk about commercial crops, what exactly you mean by commercial crops? What exactly you mean by commercial? When you're cultivating the jute, yes, Shesh?
And crops which are cultivated for profit are known as commercial crops.
Commercial crops means that those crops which are required where they sell it. They make Indians cultivate these crops like jute, sugarcane, wheat and cotton, and then they are selling it. Selling at a higher price to other European regions. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes.
These products fetched high prices and earned huge revenues for the British. There was also a growing demand for commodities like tea, coffee, and rubber in Europe. Again, vast areas of forest land in India were cleared to cultivate these crops. With the advent of industrial revolution in England, cities flourished and the new urban population gave rise to new demand for food.
What exactly you mean by the industrial revolution? What does the industrial revolution mean? When the industrial revolution took place in England, what exactly you mean by that? Industries which have been new innovations like flying shuttle, new innovations of industries. So what happened? People went to England, people had gone to England, there were a lot of population rising here, people came from the villages of Britain and worked there. So we find that they required a lot of materials, like whether it was a cotton, whether it was tea, whether it was a sugar cane. So they took it from a tropical regions. And the population also required a food which was also provided by the colonial country like India. Okay.
Grains. Raw materials like wood were also required for industrial production. Since India was a British colony at that time, India's forest resources were exploited to meet these demands. The British also believed that forests were unproductive and difficult to manage. In order to boost their revenue from agriculture in India, they pushed huge swatches of forest land into cultivation. Another cause of deforestation in India was deforestation in England itself. With disappearing oak trees in England, the British Royal Navy needed wood for shipbuilding, which...
Why did the British require wood? Why did the British require wood? For making the ships. Others making the railway sleepers. What is a railway sleeper? The area between the tracks is known as a railway sleeper. Right.
Again came from the trees in India. From the 1850s, the spread of railways created new demand for wood, for fuel to run the trains, and for building sleeper tracks on railway lines. As the railway network expanded throughout India, private contractors cut trees indiscriminately to meet the demands of the government. Thus, forests around railway tracks were wiped out. For example, in the 1850s, almost 35,000 trees were cut annually in the Madras President.
What is this particular incident indicate? What is this indicating? What is this indicating? What is this example of? What it's showing? What is this particular aspect showing? What is the state? Name the state. Earlier it was known as Madras. Why it's called presidency? Because it was with the Britishers. So they cut down the trees for making the railway sleepers. Okay.
Presidency alone to make railway sleepers. Thus we see that deforestation in India during colonial times was caused by the mixed factors of general development and imperialist exploitation.
Okay, this was the imperialistic exploitation by the Britishers. Now, how is the scientific forestry?
The British were worried about reducing forest cover due to rampant tree felling and use of forests by the local people and traders. They were concerned as they needed the wood from the forests to meet their own needs of building ships and railways. They required the wood to meet their fuel requirements and to build sleeper lines. They invited a German national, Dietrich Brandes, and made him the first Inspector General of Forests of India.
Now, what did he do actually? That year we have got, let's say that Dietrich Brandes was appointed. What was his role? What was his role? Anybody can tell me what was his role of Dietrich Brandes?
To look after the management of forest.
He was an Inspector General. He set up the Forest Institute in 1864. In 1865, he set up the different, he classified, the acts were brought. Acts classifying the forest into reserved, protected and village forest. So those are dietary standards is very important, brought by the Britishers.
Very soon, Brandis realized that there was no proper system to manage the Indian forests, so local people had to be trained in the science of conservation and suitable laws needed to be framed. He was of the opinion that felling of trees and grazing of animals in the forest had to be restricted, otherwise timber production would be affected. Let us proceed to learn about the changes he implemented to prevent reduction of forest cover in India. In 1864, Brandis set up the Indian Forest Service. In the year 1865, the Forest Act was formulated. It propagated the idea of scientific forestry.
What is scientific forestry? What is scientific forestry? Scientific forestry means that, what everyone knows what scientific forestry is. Shesh? Disha, can you tell me what a scientific forestry means? Scientific forestry means that plantation. It means that cultivation of one type of trees in a particular use. So cutting down the variety of trees. One type of tree is cultivated for the Britishers and that for timber. Actually, there is no scientific reason, but the Britishers justify their actions. Okay, next.
Under the form of scientific forestry espoused then, natural forests, which had lots of different types of trees, were brought down. In their place, many plants of a single species of a tree were planted in straight rows. This was called a plantation. The forest officials surveyed the forests, took an estimate of different types of trees in an area, and then made a plan of how much of a plantation area was to be cut every.
Okay. What was the role of the forest? The role of forest officials. What is the role of the forest officials? They go to the village forest, survey the land, and they'll find out how much is productive for them. And then they will cut those trees. Okay. This was the role of the forest officials.
Here, the area where the felling took place was replanted with new saplings and allowed to grow until it was ready to be cut again in some years. However, modern ecologists question this idea of scientific forestry, as many feel that this was unscientific. The Forest Act of 1865 was amended twice after its creation, once in
So we have got the Forest Act, which was classified in two parts. The Forest Act classified in the year, which particular year can you say now? 1878. Other one was in which year?
1927.
1927. So this was how the Forest Act was amended. This is how the Forest Act was amended by the Britishers. 1927. the act was amended twice so that the colonists take the advantage of the Indian forest. Okay.
(1878) and once more in 1927. The 1878 amendment divided the forest into three categories: reserved, protected, and village forests. Reserved forests were out of bounds for the local village people. They could collect firewood only from the protected or village forests.
Okay, can you tell me the role of the village forest? The role of the village forest was that the villagers could take the wood only from the village forest and not from the reserved forest. Okay, to build a house, they could take a protected and village forest. Okay, we have two case studies, one of Bastar, one of Indonesia. We have, I'll show you the map before I start the presentation. So we have the Bastar regions. If I scroll up, you can see that we're going to study this part, which is a Bastar area. This is the area of Bastar regions. We can see that this area is a case study, and this is what the Britishers were actually. They made this as a colony, the Bastar regions. Secondly, this is an area of the forest regions, Kangur forest, the forest of Kangur. And this river which is flowing here is known as the river Indravati. So based on this, we will be explaining you the presentation as well as the act. Okay, so I'll start with the other presentation.
At the beginning of the 19th century, a large part of India was covered with forests. The people living in these forests formed self-sufficient communities who respected and protected their environment. The peaceful existence of these forest communities was greatly disturbed when the British established their rule.
See, I would just like to explain this. This is the area, the Bastar area was occupied by the Britishers. And let's see the play based on that and how they exploited. Here we have a narrator, we have the Britishers and village headmen, how they discuss and how they come to negotiations. The main objective of why the villagers revolted. Let's see that.
Good morning all. Today we are here to present a role play on the conditions of people of Bastar during the colonial rule. Bastar is a small district in the southernmost part of the small state of Chhattisgarh. It shares its boundaries with Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh and Orissa.
Lieutenant David, I order you to preserve 2/3 of the forest of Bastar. The people of Bastar are not deserving. They are polluting the beautiful forests.
Sir, I totally agree with you. Shouldn't we be scared because we don't know much about the tribal people? Maybe their way of revolting is different. What if it's too violent?
Shut up, David. Do as I command you.
Your wish is my command, sir.
Then it is decided that we preserve 2/3 of the forest of Bastar for the colonial government.
The word spread throughout the Bastar that the colonial government had decided to reserve 2/3 of the forest regions for the colonial government themselves.
तुमने ये नया कानून सुना जो अंग्रेजों ने हमारे जंगल के ऊपर लागू किया है?
हाँ, मैं जानता हूँ।
इन अंग्रेजों ने हमारी धरती माँ का अपमान किया है।
हमें इस नए कानून के खिलाफ इन अंग्रेजों के खिलाफ एक मोर्चा निकालना चाहिए।
हाँ, हमने सब जंगल में घुस आए हैं।
हमें देखने के लिए था अब हमें इन अंग्रेजों के खिलाफ कुछ करना चाहिए।
तुम सही कहते हो माखन, हमारे पास कितने हथियार हैं।
साहब बस इतने कि एक पुलिस चौकी पर हमला कर दें।
लेकिन साहब हमें अंग्रेजों से शांति से मोह भाव करना चाहिए।
The villagers with Gundadu and others set out to negotiate with the Britishers, but they saw the Britishers coming marching towards them.
सरपंच साहब बोलोगे फौज आ रही है। This is a very beautiful forest. I think our decision was worth it.
You are right, David. This is very good. We should reserve 2/3 of it right now.
ये तुम्हारा इलाका नहीं है, यहाँ से निकल जाओ।
We are not here to negotiate. We want to abandon our houses and the forest.
हम तो प्यार से सुलझाने आए थे, लेकिन आपने हमें हथियार उठाने पर मजबूर कर दिया।
David, go get these dogs.
The villagers and the Britishers had a furious battle. The long revolt resulted in only 1/3 of the forest being preserved. This was the story of Bastar. This was the story of the revolt.
Okay, that was a school act enacted by the students, and how the Bastar region was occupied, and their leader Gundadu was never to be found. And how they distributed, let's see, why they distributed mango boats, why they distributed chilies and arrows from one village to another. Let's observe that.
In India, let's take a closer look at the impact of the British rule on the forest communities of Bastar. Bastar is located between the Chhattisgarh plain and the Godavari plain in the present-day state of Chhattisgarh. River Indravati flows across Bastar from east to west. The tribal communities of Bastar include the Maria and Muria Gonds, the Halbas, the Bhadras and the Dhurvas. The people of Bastar considered their village land a gift from the earth and expressed their gratitude through offerings during agricultural festivals. The villagers also respected specific elements of nature such as the rivers, mountains and forests and treated them as sacred. The people in each village.
Why did they respect the mother nature? Why do you think they respected mother nature? Anyone? Why they respected mother nature? They respected mother nature because they were, yes.
Because of all the resources that saved them.
They respected them because of all the resources the mother earth had given them. And they survived because of the very existence because of them.
Were also responsible for maintaining and protecting its natural resources. If people from one village wanted to take wood from villages other than their own, they had to pay a small fee called devari, dand or man to the people of that village. Some villages appointed watchmen to guard the forests. In addition to the above, the village heads of a pargana met annually to discuss and find solutions to problems concerning their forests. The arrival of the British, however, brought doom to the forest communities of Bastar and other parts of India. Initially, the villagers were forced to pay heavy rent on their land by the British. They were forced to provide goods and work for them.
expect from the village people?
Free good.
They expected the free labor and the free goods. They wanted that the free labor should be given to them and the free goods. That the aim of the Britishers was this. Okay. Let's continue with this.
British officials for free. The famines of 1899, 1900 and 1907-1908 worsened the situation.
What exactly you mean by famine? What is a famine? What's a famine? Famine means shortage of food. Yes. Right. And drought means shortage of water.
Of the villagers. The final straw that sparked a revolt in Bastard was the introduction of the forest policy in 1905. According to the forest policy, the British government proposed to reserve 2/3 of the forest lands. This meant that the forest lands no longer belonged to the forest communities. The policy forbade the people of the forest communities from using forest land for hunting, shifting cultivation, or collection of products.
What does the Forest Act means? Act means what? What does Forest Act mean? Yeah. What does the Forest Act mean? Forest Act means that the villagers are not allowed to hunt, no shifting of the cultivation.
No collection of forest products.
Yes, that's right. Very good.
In some areas, villagers were allowed to stay in the forest on the condition that they would provide free labor to forest officials in terms of cutting and transporting trees and maintaining the forest. These villages were later known as forest villages. All the others who were not a part of the forest villages were asked to leave the forest immediately without any compensation. As tension and unrest spread among the forest communities, an organized rebellion was initiated by the Durvas of the Kanuri forest, which was the first forest to be reserved. Initially, the villagers met with the priests and the headmen at bazaars, festivals, and village councils and discussed the implications of reservation. Soon, mango boughs, lumps of earth, chilies, and arrows were being pumped.
Why were these being distributed? Why were these distributed? It was like a message. It was like a message given to the other villages. Let's start the revolt against the Britishers. Because these are easily available. Mango bough means mango branches. Lumps of earth means soil. Chilies grown easily in every village.
Passed on among the villagers as symbolic messages of rebellion. Every village in the Kanuri forest contributed to the expenses of rebellion, and soon they began to burn and rob bazaars, houses, schools, and police stations that were connected in any way to the colonial state. Grains looted from state-appointed traders were redistributed. The British troops used violent measures to crush the rebellion. They opened fire on the villagers and later flogged those who had taken part in the rebellion.
Okay, that was the case study.
The rebellion, however, did not go in vain as reservation work was suspended temporarily and
See, now we see is that what was the conclusion? What's the conclusion? What is the conclusion of this? Anybody can tell me conclusion?
That the revolt was successful.
That the revolt was successful even though it was not.
Reservation was successful.
Yeah. It was earlier 2/3. That the reservation is now 1/3. Okay. That was a case study of the regions of the Buster regions. Here I have the worksheets. I will give you the worksheets once we complete it. And most important worksheets are there. These are worksheets given to you after the class. And then we have also other case study of Buster regions and the quiz. We'll quickly go through that. We'll see this Java. This is the area of the Java regions. Can you see Java? Can you see the map?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this map it shows you. This map it shows the Java regions. The Java was occupied by the Dutch. And same principles, they also follow dash forestry. They follow the scientific forestry. So we will also see the similarities and differences. We see next one is similarities and differences also. And then we move towards the quiz area, okay? We'll see the similarities and differences, and then let's see the Java map of Java. This is the okay. Anybody can answer this question? Quiz question. Who first? Okay. We have got the C part. You all agree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Second question. Next one we see who cleared the forest, the lands and colonies. Next one we move towards okay, these are the selections. Okay. What is the last question? C. Okay, then we move towards the next one. Okay. So these are the first questions, and this is the differences between the Pascal and Java regions. You can see that. We can see Java is located in which part? Indonesia. Where is the Kalam? Who are the communities in Java? There were the Kalam communities. There were Kalams. Kalams were the woodcutters. Okay. Then they were also not allowed to use a wood from the forest regions. Bastar which have already done it. Bastar belong to which area?
Chhattisgarh.
Okay. And who are the Kanu people? Yeah. Gons, Durvas were the communities. Okay. And then they were actually captured by the whom? They were taken by the Dutch people. So, before I conclude, you've done, okay, this is the first question which I've done. We started with the importance of forests and can you just get all those wood, can you just recollect what all we got from the wood, from the forest regions? Yes. So we have these are the products which we got from the forest, the twigs, the villagers are using these. Then we did the scientific forestry, that is balance. Then we did the case studies. We did the quiz, then the boards. Okay, and I will continue the class and conclusions. What are the conclusions? Anyone can give 2 conclusions? Anybody can give me 2 conclusions? Conclusions is that the tribal people live in a harmony with the nature. Okay, but the colonial government, the British government has exploited the colonies of other nations for their benefit. Okay, all the Europeans are the same policy of exploiting the colonies of their areas. Okay.